So when fall comes, we're thinking about pot roast and good hearty comfort food. But a lot of people, when they go to the grocery store, might be a little intimidated about the meat counter and what exactly which cut to pick. There are a lot of roasts to choose from. I mean, the most popular roast is the chuck roast, and I have two examples of chuck roast right here, and they look very different, but they're from the same vicinity of the animal. It's from the upper shoulder part, the chuck roll, but we have a lot of different variations in that chuck roll. So just pick the particular cut that's best for you and your family. Usually about 6 ounces of raw meat will turn into 1 serving. However, if you're meat eaters like my family, you might want to up that to about 10 ounces of raw meat when we're going to cook that particular recipe. Now a chuck roast, when we take a look at the chuck roast, we see a lot of flecks of marbling, and that's what's going to give us that juicy, tender flavor that the chuck roast is known for. With a chuck roast, we can actually roast this piece. And roasting is a dry heat, and so we're applying a dry heat with very little moisture. But some of our other roasts, like our round roast, our rump roast, some of those roasts we need to use the braising technique, which we actually take the roast and we add moisture or liquid to it. And so we get a liquid heat that cooks the particular cut of beef. And so with any of our roasts, we kind of want a slow, low temperature over a long period of time. And so that'll give us the best eating experience possible. But our other roasts are found here in the rump or in the top round. And if you take a look at a top round roast, it'll be very lean. You won't see all the flecks of marbling that you see in the chuck roast. It's still a great eating experience, can be very economical, but we just need to remember that we need to cook that in a moist cooking environment like a crock pot, or we want to make sure you add some liquid. You don't want to heat it very fast. Slow cooking temperature will give you the perfect roast in the end. And always, if you have questions, you can go to Beef It's What's for Dinner or the Kentucky Beef Council's website. Go to their interactive meat counter, type in whatever cut you're looking for, and it'll give you recipes, how to cook it, the proper temperature, all the information you need to make sure that you have a great roast on your dinner table. Now, when we are cooking this, we want to make sure that we get it at least to 145, but 160 is what some people prefer. So anywhere in that range, you're doing very well, because it is a whole cut of meat and very delicious, 145 to 160. Make sure not to overcook. And so just to give you an idea of a recipe that you can utilize this particular chuck roast for, and this one's about 2 pounds and this one's about 3 pounds. And you can utilize that in one meal, but you'll have plenty left over to use the rest of the week, maybe in some shredded sandwiches, some beef nachos, a lot of different options that you can use. And so let me just grab this crock pot and we'll get to cooking. A good slow cooker pot roast is nothing better on a fall afternoon when you get off of work and there's a meal already prepared for you for that night, but leftovers that you can have throughout the week. This particular recipe is a Mississippi pot roast. It has a lot of spice, great flavor, and it is so easy you won't even believe. And so first we have a slow cooker bag, and we want to put this in here. That'll make cleanup a snap. I love these, and I usually don't use my slow cooker without them. And so you can get them in your grocery store where you get your plastic baggies in that aisle. And so you just want to open this up and place it in your crock pot. And it's resistant to heat, and so we can just stick that in there. Now with roast, a lot of times if we're going to cook it in the oven, we want to sear the meat on the outside, because we are going to be cooking this in a low moist heat environment. We won't get that great caramelization that we get if we put that in a roasting pan in the oven. So you can choose to do that, but you don't need to. If you don't have time, this roast is great just by throwing it in. And so we have about a 2-pound roast here that we're going to place in our crock pot, and it really doesn't matter which side you use on that. You just want to make sure that that's in there. And also, if you would like to add some vegetables to this to kind of make it a one-dish meal, you can certainly do that with no problem. Also, we have a stick of butter. What is not good with butter? And so beef is great with that. It adds a natural sweetness and some creaminess to this particular pot roast. So we'll just throw our butter in the slow cooker there. And then the easy part about it. Seasoning is probably one of the most difficult things with crock pot cooking, because a lot of time the steam kind of dilutes some of those flavors, but not with this recipe. We have a packet of ranch mix that you can use. So you just open up your ranch packet and pour that in. They even have one that's a little spicier. If your family likes spicy, you can certainly try that one. And you put the entire packet in there. And then we also have some au jus gravy. You open this packet and put it in there as well, and it'll give it a little bit of that beefy flavor without all the broth in there. And so you just add that packet. And so just by doing a little extra planning, going and picking up a couple of these packets at the grocery store, your meal is almost complete. To kind of add the spiciness to it, the pepperoncinis here, we add about 5 of those to this recipe. But if your family really likes spice, you can add a little bit more. It's just whatever you like for your particular family. And then you won't have to be fighting over these after the dish is finished. And so you'll just put those in there. And a lot of people ask, what about the moisture? What about adding some liquid to this particular dish? A lot of our roast, when we place them in the crock pot, there's enough juiciness in there that it creates on its own. And then the slow cooker also creates some steaming in there that gives it a little extra moisture. So no worries, when this comes out a little bit later, it'll be great, moist, and it'll have a lot of flavor. So you can cook it on low for 3 to 4 hours. I'm sorry, you can cook it on high for 3 to 4 hours, or you can cook it on low for 6 to 8 hours, and you'll have the perfect pot roast. And if you have one of those handy dandy slow cookers that have a delayed timer setting, it can be perfect for whenever you come in the door. You'll have this great flavorful dish waiting for you.